Blake Lively is running. Not jogging through Tribeca with a choreographed breeze in her hair. Not power walking into Vanity Fair's good graces. She's running from fallout, from depositions, from press she can't control. And from a word that just got legally stapled to her reputation, extortion. Because when Justin Baldoni's former agent, someone with no reason to defend Justin and every reason to stay quiet, uses that word under oath, that's not clickbait. That's a credibility collapse. For years, Blake Lively has been chasing perfection like it's a full-time job and still managing to trip over her own interviews. Every talk show clip is an over-rehearsed attempt at clever that lands somewhere between humble brag and hostage video. She tries so hard to sound effortless that you can practically hear the effort. Then Ryan has to swoop in with a joke or a charming save to make her look normal again. Together, they're like a PR two-step, him polishing while she fumbles. But lately, no posts, no press, no carefully worded anecdotes about motherhood and muffins, just silence. And in Hollywood, silence doesn't mean peace, it means panic. Now with the current PR storm, just give it a few days and watch the rehab tour begin. You know it's coming. Blake and Ryan donate gluten-free crackers and teddy bears to hurricane victims, or they've opened a farm sanctuary for diabetic alpacas. Anything to redirect from what's actually happening, which is this. She got hit with the word extortion in a deposition, and her PR team can't scrub it off. Let's talk about the man who said it. Danny Greenberg. He repped Baldoni. He was in the room for the behind-the-scenes chaos. And when pressed about how it felt to watch Blake's mounting pressure campaign to take over creative control of It Ends With Us, he didn't hold back. He said it felt like extortion. Not diva behavior, not creative tension, extortion. And he backed it up. The pressure, the threats, the suggestion that if Justin didn't step aside, he'd be sidelined from his own film, it was all there. Not in whispers. In writing, emails, texts, notes sent straight to Baldoni. Blake didn't just want creative input, she wanted control. And when she didn't get it, she allegedly escalated. Greenberg didn't guess. He watched it happen. So what does Blake's team do? They start calling it clickbait, like that's a legal defense. They brush it off as cherry-picked, as if that somehow refutes the actual issue that the word extortion is now attached to her name in federal court. And then, in a stroke of PR genius that only makes it worse, they basically admit the allegation could be true, but insist it still doesn't matter because the judge tossed the claim on a technicality. That's not a flex. That's a confession wrapped in spin. And by the way, if Greenberg had said that about Baldoni, Blake's team would have printed it on tote bags and handed them out at Sundance. But because it's about her, suddenly it's irrelevant. Suddenly, everyone's supposed to shut up and look at Ryan holding a rescue kitten on a beach in Tulum. Sorry, but that slow fade into silence? That's not strategy. That's surrender. Now, let's talk about the recording. The one Blake's team handed over in Discovery like it was no big deal. Except it kind of is a big deal, because the person who made the recording, Claire Ayub, the indie director Blake dug up like a dusty old IMDb credit, just in time to turn a personal grudge into federal evidence. Ayub worked with Wayfair on a little-known project called Empire Waste, a film so under the radar it made book talk trailers look like Oscar campaigns. She claimed Justin Baldoni was verbally difficult during production and that she didn't want him involved in the marketing of her movie. Okay, fine. Except months later, she magically resurfaces, now as Blake's declarant, with a recording of a conversation she had with Wayfair co-founder Steve Sarowitz. One problem, she didn't tell him she was recording, and he lives in Illinois, a two-party consent state, so that recording may violate state privacy laws. Also, where did the recording come from? It wasn't subpoenaed, it wasn't legally requested. It was voluntarily given to Blake's team. So now we're not just dealing with a questionable tape. We're looking at covert collaboration between Blake and a witness, trading potentially unlawful evidence like it's a Pinterest board. Let's spell that out. Claire Ayub secretly records the head of the company who gave her her only theatrical release, then hands it to a movie star in the middle of a legal battle with that same company. And Blake, instead of backing away slowly like any rational human would, decides to use it in court. That's not just messy. That's strategic sabotage disguised as sisterhood. And the content of the call? Supposedly, Sarowitz says something about dead bodies and compares the tension to Israel and Hamas. In what planet that supports Blake's case is anyone's guess. But sure, let's go ahead and frame that as a smoking gun instead of what it actually sounds like, a dramatic executive. But Blake's team needs this tape to mean something. Why? Because it's one of the only things they have left. The court already dismissed her takeover complaint. Her own agent says he didn't see harassment. Her makeup artist said nothing inappropriate happened after day 1. So now they're clinging to a secret recording like it's going to save the case. It won't, but it might cause legal problems for whoever recorded it. Let's talk motive. Claire Ayoub's film was pulled from theaters in less than a week. That's not sexism, that's math. Low box office equals low interest equals pulled screenings. And who did she run to when that happened? Not her distributor, not a publicist. She ran to Blake. Because nothing builds solidarity like mutual bitterness and a shared dislike of your former producer. But let's be honest, Ayoub didn't submit that declaration because she believed in Blake's cause. She did it because Blake was the biggest platform she had access to, and Blake took that tape and ran with it. Because when your own legal strategy is falling apart, all that's left is chaos, and Blake Lively is now in the chaos business. This wasn't solid evidence. It felt more like a Hail Mary wrapped in legal risk and self-righteous monologues. And what does it say about Blake that this is her idea of backup? A struggling director, a legally questionable recording, and a testimony that doesn't even support her harassment claim, just her frustration with Baldoni's presence in post-production. That's what happens when you run out of lawyers who'll say yes. You go looking for witnesses who owe you favors. And this is the part where even the court starts asking, are we talking about retaliation, or are we watching someone weaponize the court system because they couldn't get final cut? At some point, the courtroom stops mattering. Because when your own narrative burns this slowly and this publicly, the damage is already done, whether a judge signs off or not. Blake Lively isn't just in legal trouble, she's in character trouble, and not the kind that gets resolved by a clever rewrite. Her entire career has been built on the idea of being in control but unbothered, the chill girl who just happens to look perfect, the kind wife, the unproblematic fave, the smart producer who somehow never sweats, even when she's running half the set. But here's the thing, that image only works if no one checks the receipts. Now they have. And what they're seeing isn't a misunderstood artist or a silenced woman. It's someone who introduced a recording that may violate consent laws, got caught in contradictions, and tried to bulldoze an entire production because she didn't like being told no. The very core of her defense, that she was retaliated against for speaking up, is collapsing under sworn testimony that says she never reported anything during the time she claimed to feel unsafe. And when pressed, her makeup artist and her own agent admit there was no record of harassment, only creative frustration. Which means this wasn't about safety, it was about control, and now she has none. The brand is broken. The press is starting to shift, and Ryan Reynolds, the king of clean exits, has gone noticeably quiet. No more curated couple moments, no staged family strolls, no jokes about parenthood to distract from the lawsuits, not even a sarcastic tweet. Just silence. And that silence, that's not support, that's strategic distance. Because Ryan knows what Blake's camp is pretending not to. Once the media narrative turns, your allies disappear first. The public follows second. And the jobs? Those don't even call to say goodbye. This isn't just one scandal. It's a credibility implosion with subpoenas, bad press, and the smell of desperation leaking through Blake's once impenetrable image like cheap perfume in a heat wave. And that's the thing about extortion allegations. Even if they don't stick legally, they stick narratively. Because once you've been called manipulative by your co-star's former agent, caught using a questionable recording, and publicly accused of trying to hijack a film by making everyone around you too uncomfortable to stop you, people don't unsee that. So yes, Blake Lively is running, but not from one bad headline. She's running from the entire machine she built, the legacy she curated, the cool girl reputation, the power persona that only worked when people didn't have access to court transcripts. She tried to take over a movie. Now she's losing the plot entirely. And if this is the best her team can spin, puff pieces, puppy adoptions, and recycled statements that say everything but the truth, then let's be honest. Blake Lively isn't just running, she's finished.
That's my opinion!